All right. Welcome to this morning's live stream. I appreciate you hanging out with me. I'm going to tell you why I care so much and actually risk maybe offending people, hurting their feelings. And I don't like to do that at all because I love people. I love people. I mean, it all ties in. Excuse me. It all ties in with my whole mission on when I started my podcast, and also the bigger picture for my business, for my media business, which is to enhance the human experience. When I started, I did not know that I would be talking about the government, media, corporations, food. Probably could have foreseen that I could be talking about food. Covert action agencies, military. I never thought I'd be talking about that, but after the last few years, I've realized that the biggest problems facing humanity are all those things that I mentioned. And so when I'm going to check the live stream too here to make sure. When I started talking about these things, it was a new direction for me. It was a very new direction for me. And let me turn this down here. It was a new direction for me, and I didn't expect it to go down that way, but I'm a seeker of knowledge and information, as I'm sure you are as well. Knowledge is power. We all know it. Knowledge is power. There seems to be a cloak or some kind of it's not even a cloak. It's because of the way that human beings have been taught and conditioned in the world and educated, which I view more as being indoctrination, quite frankly. There is an aspect of awareness in our minds that we don't want to look at, right? If you're raised, it's kind of like if you're raised in a family and your mother and father are bad people, abusive, lying, deceptive, doing bad things to other people, but they've always told you, and you've always known they're your mom and dad, it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be psychologically difficult to look at your mother and father and go, oh, in an objective way and say, hey, you're a bad person, right? It's going to be difficult to do that. That's what I feel is happening in the West, right? I used to think that North Korea was the most propagandized, indoctrinated country on the planet. Now I'm not so sure. You know, I mean, the U.S. appears to be giving them a run for the money. It's weird because in the U.S. we are quote unquote free. I don't know how free we are, given the fact that our minds, you know, we've been kind of complicit, or at least unaware of the bad things our government has been doing around the world for really over 100 years. I think about Smedley Butler a lot, especially since it was recently Veterans Day. That guy said war is a racket, and he said he was a gangster for capitalism all through the early 1900s. I think it was Nicaragua, that he went in and secured resources and the ability to produce fruit in those places for corporations. See, the U.S. government is ran like a quasi corporation. I never really saw it prior to the last few years, but it was a huge wake up call. I think a lot of people woke up, you know. But the reason that I care so much and talk about these things is because we're all connected. Like, humanity's all connected. Anyone who is pro humanity has to be pro awakening, pro seeing life clearly for what it is, pro understanding the truth and pursuing the truth at all costs, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it ruffles feathers. Because you reach a point, especially in the United States, where I feel we're very close to endgame. I saw the other day that the United States is paying $1 trillion in interest. I'm assuming that's over the course of a year. We got $35 trillion in debt, paying $1 trillion in interest. I follow this guy. I wish I could remember his name, but he doesn't see good things coming for the future of the United States in the financial arena. He actually thinks the government's going to pull and create a crisis so they can do certain things with the interest rates. And I think that's probably the case. When we're in endgame, they become desperate, right? When we're in endgame, it's anything goes. I think that's what happened in 2020. I think it was a money grab. I think these wars are money grabs, right? I think they're ways to wash millions and or billions. It's really billions out of the hands of out of the coffers of America, which aren't really even coffers anymore. It's basically dead on the American people. I think what it feels like to me is when the US government knows they're going bankrupt, they're just going to go buy a bunch of stuff on their credit card and just like peace out to some private island or some other country. I don't know. But I know the American people are going to be left holding that bill. They're already left holding the bill. This is, inflation is out of control. Housing costs are out of control. Food costs are out of control. And still, I think there are a lot of people that don't want to really look at why that is. We've been so conditioned for so long to look to a leader and an authority figure for answers. This is why I'm down on the public education system, and I know awesome teachers. But we've been so conditioned to look outside of ourselves for the answers that it's very dangerous. And one of the things that I do in my own life, and especially over the last few years, but also prior, is I want to control as many aspects of my life as I can. What I eat and what to eat, water, air, insulate myself from the financial system, the healthcare system, I don't have kids, so I don't have to worry about the education system. But if I had kids, I'd be trying to insulate them from the education system, which like I said, is really more of an indoctrination system in my mind. We're all connected. And the other reason that I care is this. What the United States government has done to people in other countries is criminal. The highest order of criminal, is heinous. It's crimes against humanity. Iraq, Libya, Afghanistan, Somalia, Yemen. Go take a look Google some pictures of Yemen and see what the government has done to Yemen. And even Donald Trump, and I used to be a believer in Donald Trump until I started to really dig in and realize, I'm always looking at the results. I don't really care what someone says is happening. And I don't give leaders passes like, oh, he didn't know he was surrounded by all these people. I don't give people passes at that level. If you don't know what's going on, you don't need to be a leader of the free world. But my understanding about Yemen is that even though Donald Trump didn't, quote, start any new wars, he helped Saudi fill their planes with fuel so they could bomb Yemen. I mean, seriously, if you want to cry, go look at the Yemen, the country of Yemen, and then do some deep dives into the wonderful people that live there. These are our brothers and sisters. These are my brothers and sisters of humanity. I never used to think this way till I woke up in, probably like 2022-ish, maybe late 2021, 2022. But the United States has done a lot of bad things to people all over the world. If you also want to dive in and really get an eye opener, go look at what happened in Libya. Libya had the highest human development index in Africa prior to the Obama administration and Hillary Clinton, unaliving Muammar Gaddafi. I don't know whether he was a bad guy or a good guy, but I know we're not the good guys. See, I know that. I'm not judging these other people. What I feel happens in these third world countries, again, based on my research, is that the United States puts in or helps to put in puppet dictators that are friendly to the United States and their business interests. And they don't care. The United States doesn't care about the freedom and democracy of the people in those countries because they care about money. And they care about making a buck, but they tell the American people that they care about freedom and democracy, and many Americans eat it up. I used to be one. I used to be one that believed that America cared about freedom and democracy till I had my eyes open, and they gave millions of dollars to literally the most corrupt corporations on the planet. That's what opened my eyes. Only because I study, food and diet for the last 20 years, and I realized the FDA is doing no one any favors, and that's putting it mildly, when it comes to what they allow corporations to put into food. Seed oils, hydrogenated oils, corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, excitotoxins make it food taste better than it should taste, and become more addictive to the brain. Preservatives to make it last longer. The FDA is, again, I believe, a criminal entity. And so when they came on the scene and said, "Hey, we want to help you stay healthy and safe," I didn't even have to there was no process that had to take place in my brain. I was like, something isn't right here, because you guys aren't in that business. And now once you see a lie one place, you see it all the places, and then you realize, oh, there's this idea of falsus in unus, falsus in omnibus. If they're lying in one area, they're lying in all areas. Food systems, healthcare systems, financial systems, education systems. I now see that everything that they have their hands in and they're steering, so to speak, is not beneficial for humanity. In the West, it's primarily silent weapons for quiet wars: education, food, entertainment, celebrity influence, political influence, media. Media controls the minds of people in the West. It's next level. It's high level. It's diabolical, quite frankly. But when you see a problem, you want to tell people about the problem, again, because we're all connected. The reason I feel we're at endgame is because the financial institutions, the big boys and girls in the world, they have a lot of money now, and they have been using that money to try and influence people and corporations and invert everything and push an agenda. Larry Fink said it. He says you have to force change. They force change by blackmailing CEOs of corporations to push a certain agenda, right? AKA go woke, or whatever else, whatever they want to push that will undermine society and invert society to weaken us ultimately, so they can gobble up more resources, right? In my experience, it's all about making us weaker, dumber, fatter, weaker, poorer, and more reliant on them, because then they have all the control, right? Look what's happening now in the housing market. Institutional investors are buying up single-family homes at an alarming rate, and governments, and this is again how I know governments are corrupt. Governments at the city and state and national level aren't doing anything about it because they're complicit, right? It's funny to me how the government always realizes there's a problem. I only have a few more minutes to go on here, but I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. It's funny to me how the government always realizes there's a problem. At the same time, we realize there's a problem. You're seeing it now in the Make America Healthy Again movement with RFK Jr., and I like him. Of all people in politics, and again, I'm skeptical of all people in politics, but of all people in politics, he seems to have done the best work, working with the Children's Defense Fund and those movies, The Real Anthony Fauci Part 1 and 2, and his work regulating the pharmaceutical industry and asking, freedom of information, and holding Fauci over the, coals, even though Fauci never complied and gave him the information that he requested. I like him a lot. But when he gets into partnership with Donald Trump, who I have now concluded is not on our side, then I question what he's doing as well. I mean, it's just wild what's going on in the world. But I care because we're all connected. I care because I have a moral and ethical obligation to my fellow human beings. They're on the receipt. People in Iraq, where we unalived, our military unalived 200 to 600,000 civilians in Iraq during the Operation Iraqi Freedom. It's interesting to me, and I can't do the math on this, how you're going to bring freedom to people that are not alive anymore. It's an interesting scenario, but I feel I have a moral and ethical obligation to people in all those countries. They're on the receiving end of the bombs that our tax dollars, my tax dollar, buys. It's wild. It's wild. There's my piece though. I just I share this information because I would want someone to share it with me. That's why I share on my social media at G Mark Phillips. That's why I put together, I don't have the Great Awakening Guide in front of me, but that's the resource, if you haven't already picked it up, that has all of these links to the documentaries, the movies, the books, the articles, and also like 41 ways that you can stay safe, and their solutions, because people would always ask in posts, they're like, well, what's the solution? We know the problem, and most people do know the problem, but what they want to know what the solution is, and that's the solution. And you can pick that up at greatawakeningguide.com. It'll reroute you to my website, and you can download it for free. No email address required. Share it with your friends and family who are interested. The worse it gets in America, financially, socially, culturally, the more people are going to wake up. Pain is the great waker-upper. That's my own experience. Someone close to me experienced a medical situation due to the thing that was pushed in 2021, and it woke me up in a big way. I may not have woken up had that not happened, to be quite honest. It sucks that pain is the great waker-upper, but realize this is what happens when people get a diagnosis from their doctor. They say, hey, well, you better stop smoking or stop drinking or stop doing these other things, or you're gonna, be unalived, like Muammar Gaddafi was unalived. Then people wake up. People don't often wake up until it's very near the end, and I feel we're very near the end of some transition here. But anyways, I appreciate you guys for hanging out with me and watching this live stream. Leave me a thumbs up if you got some value from it, and go check out the Great Awakening Guide at greatawakeningguide.com. And also, if you're into life planning and design, I want to invite you to check out One Life at thisismyonelife.com. That's the system that I created. Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate you. You too. That's the system I created for designing a life that is aligned with God's plan, that is helping people find their purpose and their mission, right? There's a section in there that is helping people find their mission. All sorts of questions like, what is your ikigai? One of my favorites is, what would Jesus do if Jesus were you, with your unique personality, character, the talents and gifts that God gave you, the perspective God gave you, your natural abilities. Everyone's a natural at something or multiple things. What would Jesus do if he were you? Right now, what Jesus, a lot of people just don't go end it at what would Jesus do, which is powerful. But if you really want to internalize it, I feel we need to ask, what would Jesus do if he was us? Like if he was you. Anyway, you can check that out. Thisismyonelife.com. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Have an awesome day.